And then we come to 1953 and the premiere performance of Waiting for Godot. À l'époque, c'était en français, En attendant Godot. The English translation came 2 years later. In it, Vladimir and Estragon are engaged in what seems to be a never-ending, pointless, and often repetitive task, waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot is the whole reason that they are there, and yet he never turns up. So their situation is rather like someone else's we've just met. The play is about what people do when confronted with the absurd, with the compulsion to find meaning where no meaning exists. And throughout the play, the characters try all of the methods of confronting the absurd that Camus suggests. They talk about killing themselves, but they don't. They talk about attempting some sexual pleasure or becoming more physically comfortable with food or with their shoes. Vladimir considers some religious ideas at various points, but they don't really seem to satisfy him. All of the characters are, of course, metatextually played by actors, and so they are examining that way of confronting it too. Vladimir tries singing at one point, and various popular interpretations of the play present the two as being rather like a music hall double act generally. One of the other characters, Pozzo, has a slave called Lucky. Having that power over him seems to be what gives his life a lot of meaning, or at least structure, but we see by Act 2 that it hasn't really made him better off. By the end of the play, Didi and Gogo seem doomed to wait for Godot forever. They don't seem to be able to accept the fact that if he exists at all, he's not coming. Interestingly, there is one character in the play who I think maybe does accept the absurd. They are charged with carrying a heavy burden, but when offered comfort and distraction, willingly go back to that burden and pick it up again. It's Lucky, the so-called slave. I think, at this particular stage of my artistic career, and I reserve the right to change my mind later, but I think that you could read Lucky as being Camus' model of the absurdist hero. Somebody who knows that their life is a pointless, horrible chore, but who gets on with it anyway. And when Lucky finally speaks to Vladimir, Estragon and Pozzo, they, and the audience, are incapable of understanding a word he's saying. You see what I mean? Waiting for Godot is just the staged version of the myth of Sisyphus. It's a work of philosophy presented as a play.